You are listening to Comedy Club for Kids presents Radio Nonsense, Radio Nonsense, Radio Nonsense, Radio Nonsense, Radio Nonsense. Hello and welcome to Radio Nonsense, the Comedy Club for Kids podcast that's suitable for all ages from 2 and everything in between. Now, I would usually start by asking how you are, or doing some sort of silly hello, or pretending that I don't understand what some sort of word means, but I'm not going to shilly-shally here today. That is partly because I don't even know how to shilly-shally. I mean, what is a shilly-shally? Do you wiggle your knees, or is it more sort of in the arms? Oh, sorry, I said I wouldn't do that. Look, or rather listen, I'm worried today, right? I'm worried because it is weirdly quiet at Comedy Club for Kids HQ. I mean, super weirdly, super quiet. Right, have a listen. Yeah, odd, huh? There's no noises at all. I mean, you could hear a pin drop, but nobody's dropping any pins. I mean, nothing. Nobody's doing anything. There's no farting animals. There's no sounds of the stinky hippos fidgeting. There's no Linda making coffee. Linda, why aren't you making coffee, Linda? Actually, I suppose that's normal, isn't it? Linda never makes coffee or even turns up. Well, all right then, there's no sounds of Linda not making coffee or even any sounds of the absence of Linda. My very large machine that makes noises in the corner isn't making noises. There's no pigeons tap dancing on the roof. There's no weird squeak from my chair. There's no harumphing from Jeffrey the irate squirrel. I can't hear the yaks playing their favourite Yakamon computer games. There's no spooky wailings coming from my small collectible jar of ghosts. And I can't even hear all the weird sounds you get every day, like the wind, or people with wind, or trees oinking, or the planet spinning, or, any of those things. I'm just saying. It's very strange. It's very strange indeed, and I intend to find out what is going on. I mean, who's taken all the noises away? Is everyone just on holiday and they didn't tell me? Has noise been banned? And if it has, what am I going to do with this podcast? If it has, will I just have to record hours of silence for you not to listen to? Can you imagine what that would be like? Yeah, it'd be like this. Yeah, it's rubbish. Right, you can tell I'm concerned, aren't you? Well, maybe everyone's hiding from something. We all have to be very quiet till it goes away. I should have thought of that first, really. I'd better get a lot quieter, just in case. Okay. So firstly, just to say a very big thank you to Matthew for buying us a coffee, which we need because Linda still won't make any coffee at all, or even turn up. Actually, once I've bought that coffee, or got that coffee that you bought for us, who's going to make it quietly? This could be a problem now, couldn't it? Can I make a kettle boil in silence? I'll have a think about that. But anyway, thank you very much, Matthew. It's very kind of you. And the other thing I have to let you know is that our Radio Nonsense live show at the South Bank Centre in London on October the 26th is selling so quickly that if you would like to come along, you will have to ask your rusty chicken-kneed dollops, I'm sorry, grown-ups, to grab tickets ASAP at southbankcentre.co.uk or at the link in the podcast blurb. I'm so excited that so many of you are coming along. If, of course, I'm allowed to make noise then. I am slightly worried that the whole show would just have to be in silence. What will we do, just sort of pull faces for an hour? I hope not. I mean, I hope we do get to pull faces, but not in silence. The other thing I have to tell you, just very quietly, is at the end of October, there'll be a special Halloween Radio Nonsense bit like we did last year. So I need some Halloween questions sent in. Anything at all that you'd like to know about spooky things, and I will get our Halloween guest to answer them. So please get those sent in, along with any other questions you need answering about anything else, any other time of year, jokes you want me to read out on the show, or anything else at all, then please ask your rusty chicken-kneed dollops, I'm sorry, did it again, grown-ups, to email me at podcast@comedyclub4kids.co.uk. And don't forget, you can check out our other Comedy Club for Kids shows at comedyclubforkids.co.uk and grab our t-shirts and books at comedyclubforkids.store. Okay, I'm going to creep around and I'm going to find out why everything is so quiet. Oh, hang on. Maybe I should stay very still and be very quiet. No, hang on, that's not going to work, is it? Or maybe I should only make noise in a high-pitched frequency so only bats can hear it, like... Oh, I'm not sure I could do that for very long. That is hard. Okay, I'm going to work it out. And while I do, you listen to this importantest bit. It's so quiet. Oh my goshness, right here on this podcast with me today is the amazing Iszi Lawrence, aka Izzy Rascal, aka Isjamin Lawrenceston Creme Fraiche Goose Hat the 12th, or as all our Western Frisian listeners will know you, Set dat Ashtableft, Werum of Jomoata de Fur Betelge. But of course, you are most famous for inventing an app that lets users know where the nearest strawberry bio yogurt is at all times, for the controversial 6-year battle beef that you had with everyone called Gerald, and most impressively, I think, for introducing the world to the fact that there are indeed 8 different ways you can say shenanigans. Izzy, it's lovely to have you back on the show again. How are you?
Shenanigans. It is brilliant.
Oh,
to be back.
No! I didn't know. Again, you know, it's one of these things because we have amazing guests like yourself, and they've done these brilliant things, and I never want to ask them to do the thing that they're known for because, you know, it's like sort of, you know, it's your time off, or, you know, I'm not. It's like when comedians go, when people speak to a comedian, oh, tell us a joke. It's like, well, not now. Do it on stage.
Yeah.
I didn't want to ask you to do the shenanigans bit, but that was spectacular.
Well, shenanigans will follow, I'm sure. So we've got 3 down now. That's 3 because shenanigans is obviously the original and sometimes the best. But I'm not going to over egg the pudding though, because it is my trick, and I'm not going to keep saying.
Well, I mean, and what I was amazed about is, you know, you were touring a 3-hour big show where you just sort of, just with those 8 pronunciations, you'd spread it over the time you kind of go into the history of each one, and it was fascinating.
Well, I mean, etymology of shenanigans is a thing that I am very up on, and I don't want to ruin that show because, you know, I have made. I mean, it's most popular with insomniacs, and they do come just to get some sleep during the second hour.
Sure,
so I don't want to really sort of ruin it for them. I don't want to get anybody too excited. So we'll leave it there with just those 4, I think. And you're halfway through.
Yes, which, I mean, it's a lovely place to be, and I should say for the listeners, you know, by you talking about people sleeping through that show, that's kind of intentional because, as the one you mentioned earlier, that's the shenanigans.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of leads.
Exactly.
I mean,
it's
very
the librarian
clever.
Insomniac mix that we get. You see, you want the shh of the librarian. Also, on the beach, some people like to bring a towel to that part of the show.
Yes,
just for that.
Yes. I mean, there's so much to it, and I'm constantly in awe of the work you do into areas such as this. And are you you know, obviously that tour is still ongoing. Obviously, you know, you're still sort of pushing the Strawberry Bio Yogurt app. But how are you? You busy with other things? Are there other things that you can tell us about?
I'm busy writing books. I've got loads of books coming out. So that is mainly what it is. Wow. Unfortunately, lacking the word shenanigans because I don't want to over egg the pudding. Also, no creme fraiche in any of the books. So I just want to add that. But I've got Blackbeard's Treasure, which is coming out in January. So with your Christmas money, you know, all those people who give you book tokens because they're really boring, spend your book tokens on Blackbeard's Treasure by Iszi Lawrence. Is a really good book. And in the future, and we're not sure what we're calling it. We think we're going to call it The Time Machine Next Door. That's going to be out in April, I think. So I'm busy writing books at the moment. It's very, very boring because you sit on your own and you just tap at a screen and you go slightly mad and then you speak to people on the internet.
Is that how you write books? So books you don't just sort of like shout words onto a page, or you
can do, but it doesn't get them down any faster, and also the spelling goes a bit wonky. So I prefer, like most of writing, if you ever want to know what writing looks like, it's mainly like somebody sort of checking to see if there's anything on the ceiling. That's mainly what writing looks like, and the actual writing is just typing, which happens very quickly because you have to think of it all. Because some of the books I write are really short, but they take just as long as the books which are really long. So you have all the stuff has to happen. Just because you don't write everything down doesn't mean you don't think about it.
Now, can I just check, if you're looking at stuff that's on the ceiling, I assume that's kind of for you're waiting for you know, ideas to fall into your head. But what happens if there is stuff on your ceiling? Is that distracting or does it help?
No, you're right about that. That is why a lot of Blackbeard's Treasure have got things like spiders, bits of jam, some snot. All of that is in there. But I've changed like the bit of snot to like a parrot, or I might have changed, you know, the cobwebs and stuff into like the sails of a ship. So that is how That's how it changes, really. But yeah, you need to basically. Sometimes I shut my eyes and screw my whole face in smallest places possible, and then if you get rid of all the face and get it into as small place as possible, you've got more room for ideas.
Is that how it works? So ideally, were someone to have just an incredibly small face, they could probably
Yeah,
write some
they've got
amazing
loads of
books.
ideas. Yeah, got really good
Yeah,
ideas. Got a small face, and that's the rule. The
right.
thing is, though, it's very difficult to like speak out those ideas because your mouth's really tiny.
Yes,
Uh, and that's a
yes.
big issue for some people. Some people actually get surgery to make their mouths a bit better. And for the first like 5 minutes after surgery, it's just brilliant ideas come out and there's nothing left.
And that's got to be really hard because once they have the surgery, the mouth gets bigger, but then of course fewer ideas because they haven't got as
Yeah.
much space in their head for the
And also,
ideas.
nobody can hear the ideas properly because when it comes out, because the mouth opening was really small, gets really big, it just goes when it comes out, and you can't
That's
actually
very
hear the
unfortunate.
ideas. It's quite
That
sad.
is very unfortunate, and of course
Yeah.
they've written all those books because they're small face, but then they go to the book readings or they go to schools to read bits of the book, and it just comes out as fart noises, and
Yeah. I
it's
mean,
very
sometimes
sad.
like it happens at really bad times. So sometimes you get the surgery and it doesn't work until you're
Mm.
halfway through a really important acceptance speech. Like say you have to like you've won the Nobel Peace Prize, and occasionally halfway through your speech about the Nobel Peace Prize, you just go and everybody has to, and nobody can laugh as well because it's really very serious when you
It's very.
win a
I mean,
prize
this
like
is
that.
incredibly serious.
Mm.
I do, and I mean, I suppose also someone's probably annotating that, and they have to write down every little of the noise for future minutes, so that
Exactly.
future generations can look back and see what
And
incredible
there's
speeches
lots
were
of people.
made.
I mean, I based my show Shenanigans on the different types of spelling and everything else, and actually spelling is really difficult.
Very
Then
hard.
there's lots of arguments among the big like word scientists about how best to spell different fart noises effectively, because that's also important in diagnosing
Mm.
who's got the stinkiest bottom. Is the actual
Mm.
noise, because sometimes it isn't that, it's a sort of noise, a sort of
Yes.
questioning
Yes.
fart occasionally.
Yes.
And that's,
Yes.
sometimes that's actually a deep philosophical thought that needs to be interpreted.
That's amazing. Well, sometimes it's whale song. Is it? Sometimes it's proper. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's
Well,
merely a.
whales don't,
Oh,
whales
yeah.
don't fart and they don't poo at all,
What?
which, no, this is
Hell,
true. They don't.
what?
Well, how
Where
else do
does
they
it?
get so big?
Oh my goodness.
I
Is
mean,
that
they
why? Is
do.
that are the noises their sort of discomfort because they always
Yeah.
nearly poo? Is that?
They sound like they're going to poo.
Yeah,
This is,
yeah.
yeah.
That explains a lot. That does explain
I
a lot.
mean, you never see it, do you? I mean, if you go to like, an aquarium where they've got killer whales and stuff, you never see a teenager with a big net at the side fishing out a lump of like killer whale poo.
No,
And
very
there's no
true.
flush in those tanks. So, obviously they don't poo.
My goodness, I had no idea. I mean, that's astonishing because I know whales sick, don't they? There's like their sick is really
Oh, yeah,
special.
yeah.
It's like called is it ambergris? Is that the term? And it's like
Look at
really
you knowing all the
fancy.
words.
I know all
Yeah.
the, I know. Well, I know three of the
And
words,
that's
and one of them
made
is
into posh
ambergris.
ladies' smelly perfume, isn't it?
That's it, isn't it? So they can walk around
Yeah.
going, "I smell like whale puke,"
Yeah.
which is very
Because it's
fancy.
really, really important when you're a grown up to smell like whale puke because it means that you're really fancy.
Mm. And also, people probably think, well, they don't poo. You smell like that, you definitely don't poo.
Well, exactly. I mean, only common people poo really, and like really posh people just keep it in,
Mm.
and
That's it.
that's why. And it's also, ironically, why the toilet's called the throne, because in posh
Right.
people's houses they actually have a throne room and they don't have a toilet because they don't need one. They just go sit on velvet for a while.
Of course, of course. Yes, I mean that does explain quite a lot about people spending, especially sort of royalty, spend much time on the throne because you're very
Yeah,
posh. You just a lot of poo
exactly.
to
Don't
hold
need
in.
to. Don't need to poo.
That is fair. What I wanted to just go back there, because you are writing your books, and you also said that sort of typing farts is particularly difficult. I just
Mm.
wondered, I don't want to do any spoilers for your upcoming books, but have you had to type a fart, and if so, what's your preferred lettering? What do you go for?
I mean, I think the subtlest type of fart is often the funniest. So if there's a
Mm.
pause in a conversation, you can write F dash F dash F dash F dash PHHT. That That noise, I think, is perfect for summarizing a sort of like quietly released, silent but violent, I believe they're called.
Beautiful. That's poetic. I would say that's poetic, and
Thank you.
I can. I mean, the onomatopoeia of just like reading that, and I can hear it as you spell it.
Exactly.
That's beautiful. That is beautiful. Can I ask? Does Blackbeard's treasure fart, or is this one of the, or are there farts
Well,
throughout the
I had
books?
to make Blackbeard's treasure is historically accurate.
Right.
So I think I made it so that there's one bit I cheat on, which is Charles Vane's ship comes to Nassau, which is like the pirate kingdom where all the pirates hang out. In my book, he's there a couple of days before he would have got there in reality. But other than that, it is bang on accurate about when things happen and what ships are involved and who was on each ship, etc. So unfortunately, the historians don't write about how much pirates fart. They write about how much they drink and how much they like stab people, and they write about how much ship explodes and they burn down towns, but not so much about how much they fart. So I've had to improvise the amount of fart I put in there. And I think I leave it with just the right amount. So you're aware that people fart, but it isn't all fart noises.
Sure. Sure. Yeah, I can see that being a problem. I'm amazed that it's not been documented before, not least because I'd have thought pirates would say fart, which is, I just want to write
Well,
quite a lot.
Blackbeard would have, because Blackbeard was from Bristol. So that is an
Right.
accurate thing that you're saying. So yeah, but some of
Yes.
them, like Charles Vane, he was from London. So he
Oh.
was from
Fart. Well,
sorry?
the fart, mate.
Exactly, he would have talking like that.
Yeah.
And there would have been like Scottish pirates as well, as a few Scottish pirates, but a lot of pirates like Black Caesar. He was from Africa, so he would have had like he possibly spoke languages like Yoruba, and he would have had Nigerian accent or something like that. And there are lots of pirates who were from Africa or from the islands themselves in the Caribbean. So yeah, they have, and there's all different like languages that go on. I think in my book there's like 7 different languages that people, and I've had to spell it right and everything. It's really quite difficult, but don't worry if you don't know them all, because it kind of matters, but it kind of doesn't matter if you know all these languages. Like if you know Dutch, you're going to be really like, you're going to know what's going on before anybody else does. So if you can read Dutch.
Is it? Did they all have parrots, and did the parrots speak all the different languages as well?
They did. The parrots definitely spoke whatever they like because they're parrots, and parrots can do what they like. But they did have parrots, and the reason they had parrots rather than like something like dogs is that parrots, they don't need much water, and when you're on a ship and you're going from island to island, like this, you don't get fresh water very often, and like dogs can't drink rum because they'll be sick and die. And as dog's sick, you can't make nice perfume about it. Just stinks at the pirate ship. Nobody wants that.
No.
But parrots, like they can eat the crackers that the pirates could eat. So Polly wants the crackers. They have these biscuits that they dunk in stew. Parrots happy with that, and so they're actually really good for sea travel. That's why they had them.
Amazing. Well, also it's very hard to balance a dog on your shoulder. I mean, obviously, unless it's a really small dog, but especially big dogs, quite hard to balance. And I'd have thought taking a dog for a walk on a ship is quite hard.
Yeah, I
It
think
doesn't really
so.
get a good run around, does it?
No, I mean, there is a dog in my book called Governor Walker, who is the governor of the pirate city. Vaguely true that, but yeah, no, and he stays on the island. He doesn't bother getting on a ship. He doesn't want to get on a ship. He's like,
you throw a
do his own
stick,
thing.
goes into the water, and then they're in trouble. So there's I
Exactly.
can see it. It makes perfect sense to me now. I love I love that a dog governed a city, and I would like to see that more in life.
I think to be honest, I think instead of like, because I know we got King Charles on the banknotes soon, I think instead of on our coins having King Charles, we should have all of the little dogs. I think that would be amazing.
Yes, yeah, I would like that. I would really like that, and people would be so happy handing over money if it had a little dog on it.
Yeah, if you have a corgi on your coinage, that's going to make people happy. And you could have, instead of like, how they've got heads and tails, how cute corgis' bums are? You could have the corgi's head on one side and have its bum on the other side. And I think that would be really good.
Well, and also we're missing out the fact that they could just have a King Charles Spaniel on all the
Exactly. Maybe have those on like the pound coins and the corgis on the pennies or something.
Yes, I think it's a wonderful idea, and
I mean,
I'd sign a petition for it.
Yeah. Historically, Britain was famous for its dogs. When the Romans invaded us, they wanted our tin, they wanted our grain, they wanted us as slaves, which got taken back to Roman use as slaves and stuff. But also, they wanted our dogs. They were the big British exports of the Iron Age. Were British dogs.
Wow.
So historically, that's like even older than the Queen.
So we got taken as slaves, and the dogs went and had a fancy life.
Yeah,
like without us. That's like reverse dog life now. I think that's amazing.
Yeah,
wow.
I like it. I like, and our tin. We had nice tin mines. That's what the Romans liked. Yeah.
Who doesn't love a bit of a British tin? I have a little nibble on it now and then, and
it's tasty. How else are they going to keep their baked beans fresh?
Well, that's incredibly important.
Exactly.
Important. Oh, wow. Well, I mean, Izzi, I'm so excited. Your books sound so exciting, and already feel that we've learned so much. Obviously, I've asked you on the podcast today because I've got a very big question I have to ask you. But before we get there, we've got the admin, we got the bits we have to do, and the first one is you've been on this show before, and you know how it works. And you gave us a brilliant favourite noise before, but I want to ask you again, this is an audio podcast. Our listeners hear this mostly with their ears, sometimes with their knees or their bums. We don't discriminate, but I just wondered if you had a favourite noise that you could give them for this appearance.
See, I can't remember if I did the car noise last time. Did I do the car noise? Do you remember? I did do the car noise, didn't I?
I think you did the car noise, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, I won't do that again because that would be silly. What I will do is I will do the noise of, which is basically my dad who's turning into a cupboard. So if I say, "Hi, Dad, how are you?" he will go, "I'm all right." So, and it's a lovely noise, and he does it every single. You could ask him any sort of like, "Dad, did you watch the news earlier?" I did. It's good. It's almost like popcorn.
It's incredible. Are you concerned he is turning into a cupboard? And if so, what will be stored inside him? Will it crisps, tins? Like
I mean, there's lots of information inside him. I think there's also he seems to swallow things like handkerchiefs quite a lot. He has a lot of hankies, and they tend to end up somewhere, so you must eat them.
So he might be one of those cupboards that's like one of those drawers that's just full of all sorts of bits and bobs.
I don't think there's much useful stuff in there. I think it's mainly, handkerchiefs, books that he put down, his reading glasses, they'll definitely be in there somewhere, possibly behind all the toffees that he loses his teeth on.
Yes, right. Yeah. Useful cupboard full of toffees and reading glasses. It could be... I assume there's probably a
basically
torch.
Yeah. I think possibly some keys that don't seem to open anything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is everyone has a cupboard like that, and maybe that's where it comes from.
Maybe that is a relative of yours, that cupboard, and you should be nice to it. But you can tell by the noise it makes. If you open a cupboard and it makes no noise, it's not. If it goes, it's definitely a relative. I think.
Wow. Well, I hope. I hope your dad's happy turning into a cupboard. That's what I mean. It sounds like he's already very good at it. From that noise. So, thank you. I mean, that was a fantastic noise. Thank you very much. And the other thing, of course, I have to ask you is that this podcast is suitable for people of all ages, every age you can imagine. Can you imagine an age of interest? Or
14 and a quarter.
Yeah, absolutely fine. 14 and a quarter, absolutely fine for all ages. Not 100, long story, but every other age, even Bronze Age, absolutely fine. And so I just have to check if there are any rude words you won't be saying on this show.
I won't be saying the word pump because I think it's got too many toilet it's just wrong.
Yes,
and it begins and ends with a P, and it's just too much.
Yes, but somebody does a pump from their bottom. I suppose that is easier to write in a book than some of the other fart noises. Yeah,
and that just shows a lack of creativity on the part of the writer. So I just don't like the word pump. I think it's wrong.
I don't disagree, and I definitely wouldn't use the word pump on this show whatsoever because it is. I mean, we'd get so many complaints. We'd get letters and letters, like actual people would handwrite letters.
It'd be just like W.
Yeah. Just absolutely,
Or
just like big,
T.
like a big A, a big R, something like that,
Yeah.
and it would be, I wouldn't know what to do with them all. I'd have to put them in alphabetical order. It'd take me a long time, and
Mm.
but I do. Yeah, I think I understand that you are banning this not only because it's a terrible, horrific, offensive word, but also because it's lazy. It's a lazy word for fart when
Yeah.
there are other brilliant
Better.
words like trouser. What about parp? Parp begins with P
Parp's
and ends with
fine.
P.
Parp's
But
fine
yeah,
because it's got that sort of like consideration in the
yes,
middle of it. It's
yes, yeah.
parp, but whereas pump, you're just confused. You're like, it's like
Mm,
pum. It's just
yeah.
I wouldn't. They are onomatopoeic noises for farts, but it's just the worst one.
Yes, yes, there is. I mean, there are times in Leamington Spa they have a royal
Hmm.
pump room,
They
and
do
that is
have
funny.
they have one of
That
those
is
in
very
Bath
funny.
spas, the
Right?
pump room.
Yeah.
And you just
Yeah.
imagine, I was reading a book by Jane Austen, who wasn't
Oh
actually
yes.
that posh, but I was reading a book by Jane Austen and it was set in Bath and they were all about going to the pump room. And you just imagine a room that stinks
Yeah.
of
Just
like
yeah.
Regency women farting.
But
It's
if, as you
horrible.
said, posh people don't poo because of the whale. It's the whole
Yeah.
whale smell,
They
and
sound like they're trying to, I understand, yeah.
yes, and so they have to go somewhere to release all the farts. So I assume they need a
Exactly.
pump room to
For
release the
that
farts.
purpose. It
Yeah.
must make sense. But the thing is, they wear those big frocks, don't they? So you can
Mm.
contain the frocks, to
Yes.
contain the farts when underneath your big dress, because that's where they've got the big
Yes.
skirts, and you can go around with all the farts contained underneath. Not, by the way, historically they didn't wear knickers because knickers weren't invented then. So
What?
that's the thing. They have bare bottoms under there,
Oh my
right?
goodness!
They have petticoats and bare
Shocking.
bottoms. I know. Anyway, and so they fart under the skirts, and then they go into the pump room, and then they just release,
Wow.
and all the farts go into the pump room, and they can go out all fresh.
Wow. And then some poor person at the end of the day would have to go in and open all the windows.
Exactly,
Be some horrible job where it's like,
and
oh, just go and
Jane
open the
Austen doesn't
window.
cover that,
She
so
doesn't. She doesn't. And I think there's a whole Pump and Prejudice that could have been a great one. They could have
I think
they
it's
could
a
have been named
bit
with
rude
stories.
of. Yeah, it would have been a bit rude to put that on the cover, though. Surely.
Yes, it would have been. And also, as you point out, pump is a horrendous word, and therefore they
Mm,
wouldn't really. No one would be able to read it out loud.
no,
Uh,
but
it'd be
yeah,
very
they called it
tricky.
the pump room, so she
Yeah.
obviously wasn't that shy about it, was she?
It's very true. It's very true. Well,
Mm.
like, I appreciate you not saying pump on this podcast, and I definitely won't say pump on this podcast, and hopefully the listeners at least will be safe. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks.
No, no, no. Thank you, and look, obviously the main reason I've got you here, apart from all this the fantastic knowledge and the shenanigans phrases as we've heard about before, but I've had this question sent in. This question's been sent in by Emmett, who is 7, although he's put 7 in brackets. So I'm not good at maths. I don't know what that means. If it's like
I mean,
Emmett
it's
to
got
the
to
power of
multiply
7.
it by something outside the bracket.
Well, it only says Emmett and then 7 in brackets. So do
So
we have
it's
to multiply?
Emmett to the multiple of 7.
Right.
So it's
I
like
don't.
7 times Emmett. That's how good he is.
Wow. Wow. That's like
That's
a
like
sort of
one
mega
Emmett for every day of the week, Emmett.
That's impressive, and that would be handy, wouldn't it, as well? Because then
Yeah.
you only have to be an Emmett on one day of the week, and the rest of the week
Exactly. And then you
have
could be
a bit of time
whoever you
off.
wanted. Yeah.
Yeah,
Nice.
well, I've never had an Emmett to the power of 7 or the 7. Yeah, is that how I say it? Emmett to the power of 7? Emmett to the multiple Emmets.
I think
What
it's
would be
to the
the term?
power of. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I didn't do very well at maths. I'm more of a
No,
word
me neither.
lady.
I
Yeah.
was terrible. I do like pie, but beyond that, I find it very tricky. Will Emmett brackets 7, open bracket 7, close bracket. Emmett sent in, my name is Emmett, which, I mean, that's a good start because,
Yeah.
just clarify.
Introductions are important.
It's very helpful. I didn't say my name is Emmett, Wednesday Emmett or Thursday Emmett. It didn't specify which Emmett of
Yeah.
the 7 Emmets has sent this in. But anyway, we'll get to the question. And he has asked, where I live, there are these tall buildings called flats. I don't get it. Why are they called flats? They're not flat. They're really tall. Why aren't they called talls? Please help. Izzy.
Well, first of all, it's a very good point. I mean, can we all understand that this is an amazing thing that Emmett's pointing out now? The boring grown-up answer, which is what you don't want,
Oh
but I'm
no.
going to give it to you anyway, is
Ah.
that flats come from the Old English word flets, which literally means the floor. And so if you have your floor and living space all on one level, it's therefore a flat or a flat. That is where it comes from, Emmett. I'm sorry, that's historically boring. And when you stack them on top of each other, there's more than one and they pluralize it because they're boring grown-ups and they're boring, they're stupid. I
Wow.
once got in trouble, right, because I didn't get in trouble, but it was embarrassing because I was proper grown up. I was like 15 or something. And the teacher said, what level is the car park on of this building or something? And she had a diagram there. And I wanted to say that it was on the 12th floor, but then I thought the floor is that what it is on? And then I got confused about the word floor because it's not the floor if it's on the 12 because it's really high up. And I remember the other word stories because sometimes they're called stories, aren't they? And I like a good story.
Which I like that.
Exactly. So and in the end I panicked and it was in front of the entire class and I said flories. And that was humiliating. But what I think they should be called, you see, I think flats is the wrong word. I think Emmett has a very good point. Also, because it gets mucked up, because like all the musicians listening are just like, no, flats is like when it's really like a bad tone instead of it's like the opposite of sharps, right? And you're just like, yeah, fair enough. Also, all the mums who like wear like high heeled boots and stuff, occasionally they don't put on their heels, they put on their flat shoes and they're called flats. So it's confusing.
Yes.
And we have a word
flat as well. You can have a flat in your car.
We have a really cool word for an apartment, like a house that's all on one level, and that is called a bungalow, which is an amazing word. Everybody likes it. So if you get a load of bungalows and you stack them up, we should call them bunga-highs.
Bunga-highs! Oh, I love it. That's an amazing idea. Yes. 15. Would you still have to say 15-story bunga-highs? Or you'd have to say 15 bunga-highs high? Yeah, I love it. I'd love to live in a bunga-high.
A bunga-high sounds really cool because like bunga is a great word and like, and it's not low because it's not, unless you're on like the bottom level one and then you're in the bungalow and everything else is in the bunga-high. And you could be on like fourth bunga-high and it makes sense because it's high and they're bungalows but stacked.
And are they called bungalows because you just sort of bunged everything in them and they were quite low? And then
possibly
so bunga-high, you just bung everything in them, but they're high, like
I
assume that's what, because that's what I think of when you bungs. I'll bung it in there.
I reckon it's possibly like from Gujarati or some sort of like Indian word. I think because like pajamas, they don't have anything to do with jam, and you think they will but actually, and they're probably because like how like words like come into English, so we nick them off people. So like. The famously, I think we went to Australia and somebody said, oh, what's that animal over there? What's that called? And the guy said, I don't know, in his local language. And that was kangaroo. I think that's a bit hypocritical, but that is, but there's like, we name things twice because we don't understand that people are just telling us what they are. And they're like the river Avon means river. So we're calling it the river. There's like the Torpenhower Hill. Pen is Welsh for hill. Tor is Norse for hill. How is Anglo-Saxon for hill. And hill is hill. Amazing. So we call it like the Torpenhower Hill. And it's up, by the lakes. But yeah, everything is just called hill. Imagine living on the road.
I mean, it's what I mean. Because like there's couscous, right? And that's straight up just the same word twice, but they're not pretending that they've given it a different name that means the same thing.
Yeah.
So I quite like the brazenness of couscous.
You've got to be very careful when you say couscous that you don't attract cats.
Yes, that's very true, and it is a danger actually, especially in the couscous factory, regularly surrounded
and cats are ultimately disappointed because cats don't eat couscous. No, they get all excited coming because they think, a tin of jelly. No, dry flecks of stuff.
Yes. Yeah. But what I wanted to ask was, just back to the flats in the if flat was it flate? What was the real word? Flet?
It's fleck, I think.
Fleck, which just means like flat, like the flat ground.
Yeah.
So why don't we?
It literally means the floor. I think it's Scottish for the floor, but it's Old English for like the ground or the bit where you're on. It's
So really, we
rubbish.
should be calling everything we walk on flats. Like I'm just
Yeah,
walking down the flats to,
yeah. Unless you're on a hill,
you know.
in which case it's a
Oh
tor
yeah,
or a pen or a how.
yeah.
So I just that it's a lack of imagination from people,
It
and bunga
is.
highs. That's what they should be called.
I mean, I don't disagree at all. I think Bunga Highs is a much better. But I mean, you also brought, you mentioned stories earlier, and I'm
Yeah.
all for things being more stories everywhere. Like, I've just got to go up. I've got to go up this tower of stories. Like that sounds really
Yeah.
magical.
Imagine therefore if you had like a block of flats and they were on stories instead of floors. So you called
Mm.
them stories, and then you could be on like the murder story or the mystery story, or
Yeah,
you could be, instead of like 1, 2, 3, 4, you could have romance just above
yeah.
like crime.
Or you could have. I mean, lots of books. There are different parts. Like if you can read book one in a series all the way to book seven, and each floor could be a different part of the book. You work your way up, and you get to the very end at the top.
You could have like a Harry Potter one where you could start on the Philosopher's Stone and end
Yeah,
up at the Deathly Hallows.
but then the top floor would be huge.
It
It'd
would be
be
a really
so
big.
big, and the bottom floor would be really tiny, and that would make the building possibly a
Well,
bit
you could have
wobbly.
like very small people living at the bottom and really tall giants at the top.
Yes, yes.
You could
Which is
do
how I think
that.
houses should be made. Just make them
Or,
size wise.
yeah, you have really thick people at the top, couldn't you? Because the books are really thick. So really stupid people. Don't call people thick and stupid. It is not nice.
I just thought by thick, I just thought you meant sort of like really hench, really like they're thick.
Oh no,
They're
yeah, they
just
could be like really
yeah,
like they could.
just
Well, yeah,
huge,
because you have to
huge.
be really strong to lift up those books all by
Well,
yourself.
exactly,
I think.
exactly, and
Yeah.
possibly hard backed. You might have to have with a strong
Oh,
spine. It's
yeah. To
yeah,
carry them all in your book
yeah.
bag. But
That'd
yeah,
be. I
I'd
mean,
like to live in the Goosebumps flats. I think I
oh my
like the
goodness,
Goosebumps ones.
could get a bit
They're fun.
creepy though, couldn't it?
Bit creepy and scary, but also a lot of fun. I think they'd be good.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
See, I think that's it. You mentioned earlier there could be like a murder mystery one, but that would be too scary because
Well, it could be, but you could be like living with all the police and stuff. So would the police live in all the crime flats? Because they'd be all the Sherlock Holmes ones. Because Sherlock Holmes wrote
imagine if
loads.
like you invited
Well,
people
he
around for
didn't
dinner
enjoy
and
them,
then you'd have to
but
sit
yeah,
around the table and go, I've gathered you all here for a reason, and it would be you
yeah.
wouldn't just be able to have a nice chat. You'd have to go around and say why each one is the
Mm.
possible suspect.
Like murder. Although I've been rereading the Sherlock Holmes. It's written by a guy called Arthur Conan Doyle, who was really weird. He was a Victorian guy, right? And he believed in fairies, right? And also, he was the first person to judge. Guess what competition he was judging? Go on, see if you
Ooh,
can guess. This is true. This is at the Royal Albert Hall, right? The big place,
oh
the
wow,
first
okay.
ever of these competitions in London.
Is it the cheese rolling competition?
Oh, I thought it was a cheese roll. No,
Okay,
it was Mr. Olympia. It
oh
was
my
the
goodness!
bodybuilding
I was going to
competition.
go for Eurovision next. I'm Mr. Olympia. I would never ever have got. I would never.
Exactly. So
That's
that's who you
amazing.
want judging
Yes.
like all of these like really muscular guys to say who looks the best in their boxer shorts. Who should we get to do that? Yeah, the guy who wrote Sherlock Holmes, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. That makes
Wow.
sense. It
Wow.
was a
I mean,
weird time back then.
it's a very, very weird time. Very weird time. And it just Sherlock Holmes or Sherlock Bunga Highs.
Exactly. Wouldn't you rather he lived, because he lived in a flat? He lived in a
flat,
Bunga High in Baker Street.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was it? Was
With
it
Watson.
36A? I can't remember the number. The
21B, isn't it? I don't know.
Oh,
I
21B,
think
probably that.
something like
Yes,
that.
it was. Yeah, that was better. I just made up.
Baker
I think
Street.
36A is where I used to live somewhere. Not on Baker Street. I didn't live on Baker Street. I'm confusing Sherlock Holmes's life with my own, which happens every day when I wear my little hat and smoke my pipe and solve mysteries.
Exactly. Well, you do solve a lot of mysteries, though.
All the time. Yeah.
Exactly.
Although
You're the person we
you've
go
helped me
to.
today. You've helped solve Emmett's mystery, which is amazing. And I think we can. I would like to start a campaign really to get them changed to Bunga Highs. I think people would be more excited about living in Bunga Highs. I live in a
think
flat,
so.
and I don't like going, I live in a flat. I'd much rather say I live in a Bunga High. I'd say
Yeah,
it
I
like
live in a
that
big
every
block
time.
of Bunga Highs. That would be
Yeah,
amazing.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, Let's hope that we can change this word forevermore. And thank you, Izzy. Thank you for your knowledge. And I guess you're back to writing now, or have you got anything on your ceiling that's going to help?
Oh, there's nothing on my ceiling. Well, there's a picture of Carta Mantua, who is a queen from the Brigantes tribe, which I'm currently writing about. So I'm going to write about her. A man called John Scoggin, who you would love. You would love him because he was the jester to Edward IV, and he was a very funny man. He told the Queen of England that his wife was deaf and she had to talk really loudly. And then he told his wife that the Queen was deaf and she had to talk really loudly. And so both of these women were just yelling at each other right next to each other. And the king was having a very funny laugh at the time.
It's a top quality prank.
Exactly.
Top quality prank. I'm very
good time.
I'm very impressed. Your ceiling is also way more interesting. Mine has just got some lights on it, so I'm very jealous. But it sounds absolutely brilliant. And good luck with the writing. Good luck with the staring at the ceiling. Good luck with the shenanigans tour. And,
I know it's very grueling. It's grueling that. The librarians are very, very into it, though. If you have a school librarian, say hey to her from me, or him from me. That'd be good.
That'd be excellent. Well, thank you, Izzy, and hopefully get you back soon.
Thank you. Au revoir.
I would really prefer if you would be quiet.
Thanks so much to Izzy for answering Emmett's very important question, and of course for starting the campaign for flats to now be known as Bunga Highs, which I would definitely back. It's very important. I think that is a change that the planet needs. Emmett, I do hope you're happy with your answer, and if not, please do say it as quietly as possible into a box that then gets put on a rocket and sent into space so absolutely no one can hear it. Thanks. Izzy's book Blackbeard's Treasure will be out in January, and you can pre-order it online now at the link I'm going to pop in the podcast blurb. And her first children's book, The Unstoppable Letty Peg, is also absolutely amazing. It's brilliantly funny. It's historically accurate too, and it's all about a roller skating suffragette who knows jiu-jitsu. I would totally recommend it. And if you have a question that you need answering, particularly any Halloween ones, then get your rusty chicken need dollops. I'm sorry. Grown-ups to help you. Email them into us at podcast@comedyclubforkids.co.uk. If you fancy coming to our live show at the South Bank Centre on October the 26th, then do grab tickets fast as there's not many left, and your grown-ups can do that at southbankcentre.co.uk or in the link in the podcast blurb. And of course you can check out our shows and grab our t-shirts at comedyclubforkids.co.uk. Oh wait, hang on. Maybe I've told Emmett to send his complaints into space if he doesn't like the answer, but maybe I'm in space. That could be why everything's so quiet. But then, why am I not floating? I just can't figure this out. I've tried talking in a high-pitched frequency, I've listened out for monsters, I've even checked to see if someone's stolen all the noise, but clearly not, as I can do this. And it's fine, no one's got me or anything, so why on earth is everything so quiet? It's making me very, very angry! Ugh! Oh, whoops. Oh, it turns out I was in the cupboard. Oh, I must have fallen asleep in there while I was putting my my clean clothes away. Oh, well, that is very embarrassing. I'm sorry, everyone. Sorry, everyone. I guess we can make loads of noise now, and it's absolutely fine. Everyone? Hello? Farting animals? Linda? Why am I floating?
Issa, this is Mission Control Houston. Please call station for a voice check.
Uh-oh. Bye! You have been listening to Comedy Club for Kids Presents. Radio nonsense! Radio nonsense! Radio nonsense! Radio nonsense! Radio nonsense! It's the end.